Welcome, everybody, to our mock interview process. We are so thrilled you are with us and joining us today. My name is Felicia Tripp Folsom. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the Executive Director of our Emerging Leaders Program. Today, I want to go over the day with you. We're going to start, of course, with the welcome, which I already welcomed you guys. Next, we're going to do our land acknowledgement. You're going to hear from our presenting sponsor, Mainz, Brady, and you're going to hear from one of our key alumni, Eli alumni today, and you're also going to hear from a keynote speaker. We're also going to give you sort of the process, the candidate snapshot of this year. And then we're going to tell you about wonderful events that are going to be happening this summer, along with what the next phase of the process looks like for you. So I'm going to start today with the land acknowledgement. We try to do this as a team to remember why we do the work and to acknowledge the people that helped us get here. So I'm going to start with today. We would like to acknowledge the peoples whose land we are gathered on from our respective positions. Present day Portland is located on the traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Klamath, Clackamas, Band of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Malala, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia and Willamette rivers. Let us also acknowledge the robust Native community made up of tribal diversity that originates from around the country and whose journeys have brought them to Portland by ways of forced displacement or seeking opportunities. Today, these same communities celebrate their heritage, showing resilience and tenacity that will be greatly admired by their ancestors. This program that you are in today would not be possible without our long-term partner and presenting sponsor, Mainz Brady Group. And it could not be possible without one of our biggest champions, Kelsey New, who will be speaking with you today.
Hello, Eli interns, alumni, volunteers, and evaluators. My name is Kelsey New, and I work with Mainz Brady Group here in Portland, Oregon. We are very honored to be back again for the third year as the presenting sponsor of the Emerging Leaders virtual mock interview event. I want to start by thanking all of you for showing up and investing in yourselves today. And I want to thank the Eli volunteers and the entire team at the contingent for making this event possible. If you're not already familiar with Mainz Brady Group, we are a local technology recruiting firm with offices in the Bay Area, Portland, and Seattle. We partner closely with companies up and down the West Coast to help them find the right talent for their teams. Our crew of recruiters specializes in building long-lasting relationships with job seekers and getting them prepped and poised to land their next great career opportunity. For all of us at Mainz Brady Group, relationship and partnerships are everything. Connection is the key to what we do. And now more than ever, it can be difficult to connect. The last couple of years have changed the ways we work, socialize, and interact altogether. But what remains is the fact that we are still human, and humans have a core need to connect with other humans. And connection is powerful. A study done in 2021 showed that people who experience increased connectedness with others have greater life satisfaction, more resilience, and better mental health. I want you all to think about that as you continue to move through your career journey. What you have here through the Emerging Leaders Program is powerful. You've got a network of peers who share the same drive, ambition, and motivation that you do. Connect with them, share your experiences with them, learn from them, and grow with them. This is an impressive community of people that are here to support you, guide, prepare, and mentor you, and ultimately empower you along your path to securing a satisfying job. It's important to remember that the relationships you work to make today and build upon tomorrow and the next day will become exponentially valuable to you in the future. So with that said, thank you again for welcoming me to your group event today. We look forward to being a resource for you now and in the future. Thanks.
Additional event sponsors that have made this possible include long-term partners Dutch Bros, Thesis, Watson, Advantage Credit Union, and PNC Bank. Without them, our program wouldn't be as sustainable as it is today. And we want to thank them not only for being event sponsors for this mock interview process, but for sponsoring the overall program for this season. Now I want to introduce you to someone that I greatly admire. Today, I want to introduce you to Maddie Doe, who's the Legislative Associate for Thorn Run. She participated in Eli in 2019 as an intern at the Oregon Community Foundation and is a graduate of University of Oregon. If you can also see Maddie participating and volunteering to this day with our organization. She, just like many of our alumni, are dedicated to the next generation of young people that come after them. We at Emerging Leaders see Maddie as one of the shining examples of why we do the work that we do each and every internship season. And with that, I welcome to the stage, Maddie Doe.
Hi, I'm Maddie Doe, and I was a part of the 2019 cohort of Emerging Leaders, and I'm a current sign member. First and foremost, congratulations on making it to this exciting next stage of Eli. You did it. You're awesome. Give yourself a big pat on the back. And while you're all here hoping to talk about a summer internship, I'm here to talk about one of my favorite parts of Eli, and it's the amazing community that we have here. There's so much intention that goes into creating this unique community, and it all comes from the awesome team over at the contingent and from the co-founders who are all committed to making sure leaders of color are uplifted and that we're all personally and professionally successful. No doubt, we've all been through so much change in these last 2 years. For me, I was the first in my family to graduate from college in 2019, and while I didn't have to pivot to distance learning, I was learning how to navigate my first adult job during the pandemic. So I currently work in politics, and as you can imagine, there's not a lot of people of color in politics, and especially in my industry, there's not a lot of young people. So for me, the imposter syndrome is super real, and the lack of coworkers my age is super real. But one of the reasons why I love Emerging Leaders is because there's a unique experience that comes from entering the workforce at the same time with a group of your peers. In 2019, and even sometimes now, my Eli cohort and I, we talk to each other about what it's like to work a corporate job in Portland, a corporate job where most of our coworkers and company leadership is predominantly white, and we're the youngest in the room by at least 5 to 10 years. Community from Emerging Leaders and Sign and the mentorship from the contingent is what got me through. And they also helped me navigate my personal life when I was transitioning from graduating college to moving back home and living with my family. And now our conversations within my Eli cohort and now my Sign cohort have transitioned from how can we do this because I'm too afraid to ask my boss to how much should I be contributing to my 401k? How do I manage my student debt? Or how do I manage my car payments? Kind of next level life questions. And lately our conversations have been, how do I build generational wealth? And without Emerging Leaders or Sign, I would be navigating all of those conversations by myself. And so that makes me incredibly thankful for them. But one of my favorite parts of our cohort is that we also hang out. We get to know each other as real people outside of work and outside of our cohort. And we're real people with lives and hobbies and interests, and so it's a lot of fun. And that shows why Emerging Leaders is so much more than just an internship program. It's a true investment into you and me and an opportunity for leaders of color to network and lift each other up. And I like using it as a resource on how to adult. So last year, I was thinking about quitting my job and going to grad school, and Felicia was one of the first people I called. And another one of my friends was overwhelmed trying to navigate financial literacy, so she actually brought a small group of us together, and we met once a month, and we set our budgets and our spreadsheets, and we held each other financially accountable. And, life is already so hard to navigate, and it's even harder as a young person of color. And so that makes me all the more thankful for the emerging leader community, so we can lean on each other and get through it together. And so take advantage of your time in emerging leaders, advocate for yourself and for your aspirations, and most importantly, introduce yourself to the other leaders with you in this virtual room. We need each other, and there's so much power when we are all connected. You never know who you're going to be sitting next to. You never know who's going to be your next coworker or your next best friend. So while you're there, make sure you say hi to the founders and also to the amazing emerging leaders team. They want to see you succeed, and they want to get to know you. They're committed to your growth, and also because at the end of the day, when one of us has a win, we all have a win. So they love hearing about it. Let them know when you get a new job or a promotion, and celebrate any major life milestone. And it's not weird to cold email them or slide into their LinkedIn DMs. I do it all the time. And so as you head into your interviews today and later on, I want to share 2 things that have helped me find successful interviewing. And it's have fun and be confident. It's super cheesy, but even if this interview is painful and you're super nervous on the inside, just treat it like a conversation with a new friend. I suggest being curious, listening with intention, and showing genuine care. Best of luck. You got this. You're going to rock it.
Next, I want to introduce our keynote speaker, Rudy Carrasco. He is a program director at Murdoch Charitable Trust, who has been a long-term supporter of our work in our organization. Rudy is also, like many of you guys in this audience, first-generation college student. He has over 30 years of experience in both nonprofit leadership and developing new ministry initiatives. He served for 9 years in a global organization ending poverty through business. And today, as I said earlier, is the program director for MJ Murdoch Charitable Trust in Vancouver, Washington. He was born in East Los Angeles and is a past board member of World Vision and the Christian Community Development Association. He holds a BA in English from Stanford and is a member of the Hispanic Scholarship Fund's Alumni Hall of Fame. He also spends a lot of his volunteer time mentoring the next generation of leaders. And with that, I would like to welcome to the stage, Rudy Carrasco.
The year was 1994. My friend Ruben called me and said, would I like to be on a CNN talk show? And I was like, what? Now, Ruben and I had known each other for a few years, and I imagined that he had received the invitation. He was a well-known newspaper columnist at that point. But he thought I could do the job. He said, well, they're having a debate about Proposition 187. In 1994, that proposition was about illegal immigration, and it was going to be on CNN in 35 countries. And was I interested? And I was petrified, frankly. I'm on the phone with my friend, and I said, well, I don't know. And he said, Rudy, you're going to be great. I hope you do it. And I said, okay, well, who do I call? So I called. It was in a couple of days. I went over there to the CNN studios in Los Angeles. I was living in Pasadena at the time. I had done a little bit of preparation, but what did I know? Well, I got up there, and it was the CNN studio, and I was sitting there with the author of the proposition, a guy named Ron Prince. And they just put us into the studio, 2 seats. The main host was back in Atlanta. And they acted like I had done it before. I had never done anything like that. And it was just me and Ron Prince, and we're sitting there side by side. And these red lights on the big old cameras. And, we had microphones, we could hear what was going on. And so for the next hour, I was on a live talk show broadcast in 35 countries on CNN, talking about an immigration initiative. And I got to tell you, that guy ran circles around me. Ron Prince was a skilled media communicator. And we even talked over me a few times. And finally, I got a word in edgewise, and somewhere near the back end, around minute 45, I made a few comments. I saw the recording later, and I said, okay, I made a few comments. The show ended. We said goodbye. I got in my car, went home. And for 2 years after that, I had people coming up to me. For 2 years, all over the country, people saying, I saw that. You did a great job. Nice job. And you know what I learned out of that was, well, I learned to be less afraid of situations like that, being put on the spot, being in front of a lot of other people. Because I saw on the backside, yeah, I got a few pats on the back, a little bit of criticism, but kind of people didn't really pay that much attention to it. They moved on with their lives. So the thing was a big deal, but it was not as big of a deal as I thought. My name is Rudy Carrasco. I'm a program director at the MJ Murdoch Charitable Trust. I'm so glad to be here with you today to talk, you're going through the emerging leaders process for an internship this summer, 2022. You're working on the mock interview, and they asked me to share a few thoughts about being intentional with a network as a way to support your career journey. I want to leave you with two things, and that this story sort of leads up to. The two things I want to say: first, say yes to the invitation. Second, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So first, say yes to the invitation. Second, it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So with that story in 1994, I could have said no. I would have had good reasons to do it. I don't want to look like a fool, fall flat on my face. I've never done this before. But I said yes to the invitation and didn't know what would be on the back end. But what I said about learning to be less afraid of situations like that was huge. And I've carried that with me to this day, that situations that I think are scary or a big deal or that are high risk, high level, and I'm nervous about it. I'm a little less nervous because I know on the back end, well, it may not be as big of a deal as you think in your mind. It's a solid thing, it's a good thing, but like that day after the CNN event, I had to go back and my janitor didn't clean the bathroom, so I had to clean the bathroom. I was working at a nonprofit organization, still had to get reports in on time and pay the bills. So it helped me when I think about situations now, whether an opportunity I want to take advantage of, or if somebody asks me to come speak or go do something again, I'm a little less nervous and I'm a little more confident. But there's another part to saying yes to the invitation, and it has to do with networking. So there's a couple, I'm thinking there's two major ways to network. There's formal, then there's informal. So the formal ways of networking, I believe the emerging leaders team has shared some of those principles with you. I imagine that you know a lot of principles for yourself, but sometimes there's networking mixers, professional mixtures, going to events, meeting people, applying for jobs, doing what you're doing here as a way to meet people. So there are formal ways to network. Informally, these are ways that I've landed in some interesting places. The CNN thing's one. In 2001, I ended up at the White House in a small meeting in the West Wing. And then a year later, had a job offer from the White House. There was a whole informal networking thing with that. Even 2 years after that, I ended up on the mound at Dodger Stadium, throwing out the first pitch before a Major League Baseball game. I'd grown up in LA and, watching the Dodgers, and it was just an unbelievable experience. You're like, how did that happen? How does it happen that you end up being at the White House, you end up getting a job offer later? How does it happen that you end up throwing out the first pitch? And even how does it happen that I'm doing what I'm doing today? I was not looking for a job in 2017 when a headhunter from the Murdoch Trust made contact with me over LinkedIn. My wife and I, we'd been in Los Angeles for years. We moved to West Michigan in 2009, and we were burrowing in. You know, I had the work that we were doing was important to us. Our kids were going deeper. We'd been there about 8 years. So this headhunter comes along and says, "Hey, what do you think?" And I'd actually known about the Murdoch Trust over the years with different work that I've been doing. So I thought, that's an interesting group. I also knew that it's not easy to get into a foundation, to a sort of a grant-making foundation, which is what the Murdoch Trust is. So it was really interesting to have somebody contact me about that. And, as it goes, it was a 4 to 5 month process. They were looking at me, I was looking at them, and my wife and I said, you know what? This looks like a pretty good thing. Why don't we take the leap? So it was a great opportunity. But what I want to say about that, with saying yes to the invitation and not what you know, not who you know, but who knows you, is this. Whatever you can do to intentionally network over the long term. The things that have really blessed me and have changed my life have all worked themselves out over many years. I don't know how much I can add to the professional practices and wisdom about short-term networking. When you apply for a job, you do the interviews, you talk to people, or you go to mixers and you get involved in activities locally. All the short-term networking activities, I don't have much to add there. In the long term, in the long run, I mean, all of these things played out over years. And so I want to say this. What's worked for me, I've been doing a monthly email. It's like a newsletter, e-blast. I've been doing it since about 1994. We didn't have all the MailChimp and all the social media and everything. I was literally printing out a piece of paper, folding it, and putting a stamp on it. That was just me. I'm a writer. I used to be an editor of my high school newspaper, done magazine writing, and I was a newspaper columnist after a while too. So I've enjoyed writing and I like to communicate. It was just me being my own weird self. That's the title of an article, by the way, that I just love. It was like, be your own weird self. And it was a business entrepreneurship article we can discuss on another day. But just being my own weird self, I'm communicating and I'm talking to people on a regular basis. It was just a way for me to keep up with my friends. And after a while, there are so many newsletters and so much email that people don't even read your stuff. So I quit trying to have a thoughtful thought leader, write a story, stroke your chin, think about something. I said, you know what? I just want to communicate, and out of sight, out of mind. I just want to stay in touch with people, especially as I moved around the country, LA, and then going to Michigan and now in Washington. So I've been doing this email monthly about, on average, for, do the math, that's 27 years, 28 years. Just letting people know what I'm doing and letting them know when I had a speaking engagement, letting them know when I had an article published in a magazine or a newspaper or something. And I had a subtext all that time. The subtext was that you can hire me to write for you, or you can hire me to speak at your event. But I never said that. If you were on my email list, if you're on my email list today, it won't say, hey, buddy, book Rudy as a speaker. Or it'll say, hey, get him to write an article. What it does is that it shows others that there's other people who think my stuff is valuable and worth printing or worth having me come and speak at their event. And so that works especially for the people on my list who have to book speakers. So one piece of bang for the buck, so to speak. I have a friend who, he was booking the speakers at Fresno Pacific University. back in like 2007 when I was back in LA running an organization. And he had me come up and speak to the chapel at Fresno Pacific. And I put him on my email list. We're friends. My monthly email, some ideas. Hey, here's a picture of me and my dog. I'm going to Walmart. You know, there's basketballs are on sale for $4. I'm telling you, there isn't much going on in this newsletter except I'm letting people know I'm still alive and I'm doing stuff. Well, I think it was like 2011 that, you know, he's still on my email list, right? He gets my monthly email. I send out my email one day, hit send. Within about 5 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, he's calling me. And he's calling me from Arkansas. It turns out he had taken a position with a university there, and he was booking chapel speakers. And at that moment, he was stuck because I think he'd had somebody drop out. He had a hole in his schedule, and he's sitting there at his desk going, man, what am I going to do? I need to get somebody. Then my email popped up, and he remembered a couple things. He remembered that I spoke with him before and did a decent job. He's been getting my emails and sees that I still regularly speak. And he said, I bet Rudy could do the job. He got me on the phone. We talked it out a little bit. It took about 5 minutes. And he said, can you come in about 3 weeks? We'll fly you down. It's only $500 for one talk. I hope that's okay. And I'm sitting back going, yeah, buddy. You know, $500 is to give a 30-minute talk is $500, right? So that's one small example. But the other thing, so as you might imagine, I have a lot of examples like that. I'll just tell you one more that kind of encapsulates it. It's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So with the Murdoch Trust, with the job I have now, the headhunter contacts me and says, Rudy, so-and-so from a foundation back east gave me your name. And I'm like, whoa, that's a pretty good connection, right? Somebody who's already a grant maker with a foundation gives the person my name and says, talk to Rudy. That's a fantastic endorsement, right? How did that happen? Well, check this out. It was a woman there named Julie. I met her like in 2008 in Los Angeles. She and her colleague were in town and they just asked me to meet. I think I'd been writing articles in magazines and stuff around the country, and we were in the same circles peripherally, you know, wide circles. And she says, let's just meet. So we had lunch. I went out to Pomona or Claremont or something, met her and her colleague, felt good enough to put her on my email list. I don't put everybody on my email list because, you know, people get annoyed. Like, why did you do that, right? So it's got to feel like it's a good connection and that she's not going to be mad about it later. So put her on my list. And so since 2008, but, you know, so by 2017, she had been on my email list for about 9 years, monthly. That's like 108 e-blasts with Rudy saying, hey, I'm speaking here. Here's an article I wrote. This is cool. Here's a photo. Hey, my organization's having an event. I keep them real short. Just people are busy. You're getting too much email. But so it turned out that, and I never met with her again, never had a phone call. I had one meeting in 2008, a lunch, and then she's on my email list. No conversations, no hanging out, no calling to check up, how you doing? But she knew me. When this headhunter calls in 2017, says, hey, who should I talk to? She knew me. What did she know? It isn't just that I sent an email. The stuff I was sending was third-party validation. So it's one thing for me to write an article and, you know, write my own thing and send it out. But that's just me. That's nobody else validating, verifying, or endorsing me. But when I write an article and it shows up, you know, in the Pasadena Star News newspaper, or in Christianity Today was a publication I used to write for. When the article shows up somewhere else, that's a third-party endorsement. When I speak somewhere, I would speak at a certain think tank in Michigan, or I would speak at a college, or I'd speak at a church, or at a conference. That is a third-party endorsement. So that's very different. So she knew me, and what does she know? She knew enough to know that, some people, they invite him. He seems like he does some decent work. He talks about his work that he's doing in Michigan. He might be worth a conversation. It wasn't like she was saying, hire the guy now. It's just like, hey, I know a bit about him, and you can check it yourself. Other people are endorsing him for other things. And so it's not what you know, it's not who you know. Who knows you? How are you going to get people to know you? How are you going to get people to know your work? Your professionalism, you design, you write, you have good business sense. How do you do that? So I got a whole bunch of other suggestions and tips. I mean, I did something that fit me, my own weird self, and I let some people know. And it's a long game. It's a long game. This is not something that you write an e-blast, you send it, now everybody wants to hire you. That hasn't been my experience. Let me just put it that way. But over the long term, people get to know you. And then they'll be willing to say, and you make it easy on them. You don't make them, they don't have to say like, Rudy's a good guy, trust me. They don't even have to do that. They're like, you know what? Rudy does X, Y, and Z. Check it out yourself. Google him up. You'll see it. So I actually have a lot more to say. As you can tell, I love to talk, love to connect with people, but I'm so glad you're going through this process. I encourage you, finally, to go back to point one, say yes to the invitation. I had a mentor. He was my first boss. He's a mentor. He's still a mentor. Great inspiration, a guy named Dr. John Perkins. That dude said yes to the invitation. And what I mean is, he's written like 12 books. He's got maybe 10 honorary doctorates. He's well known in his niche. But I was his assistant for 4 years, and we traveled around the country. And there were times when, he was speaking to big groups, big audiences. But sometimes we'd go to these churches, for example. They would ask him to speak to the middle schoolers. And I'm sitting there going, y'all have this amazing person, and yeah, sure, you can have him preach, but you're kind of dragging him around, making him speak to the middle schoolers and making him run off over here and do something. And it kind of felt like, were they really honoring him? Did they really recognize how awesome this guy was? But he told me, he said, look, A, you're just a person at the end of the day. You're an equal, you're a human, you're no better than anyone else. B, if you can help out, you can help out. It's a faith perspective. I don't mean to cross any lines about faith and religion, but the story makes sense from a faith perspective. He just said, God's at work. You don't know what God's doing. If somebody invites you to something, if you're not breaking a law, it's not going to mess up your other responsibilities, why not? You never know what's on the other end. You never know who you're going to touch. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who's connected to what. So I watched this guy for years say yes to the invitation. And yeah, a lot of it didn't seem much to come from it, but a lot of times that's how you meet people. So it might be a random thing. You might be an engineering major and your buddy down the street says, I need some volunteers with the arts camp. 2 people fell off and I'm desperate. I need help for a week. And you're like, I'm into engineering. I'm not into arts. Say yes to the invitation. You have no idea who you're going to meet, what you're going to learn, what you're going to see. And maybe it's just a nice thing. Maybe you just helped your friend out and, gave up a week of your life. Maybe you meet somebody who's also on the art staff who's connected to the big engineering firm that you've been trying to connect with. You have no idea what's on the other side. And yeah, if they ask you to speak at the Emerging Leaders event or speak somewhere and you're not a public speaker, they ask you to write something and you don't feel like you're a writer, say yes to the invitation. Hey, you might not be a finance person, but you're working at an organization that needs help. I say, hey, why don't you tell them you can help out, but be completely honest and transparent. Be like, I don't know anything about this, but I promise I'll watch a YouTube tonight, I'll read a book, and I'll get my buddy. And then it's on the organization if they say like, thanks, no thanks. Or if they're like, we're desperate, we need help. It's kind of like pulling the thorn out of the lion's paw. You have no idea who you're connecting with when you say yes to the invitation. Finally, don't say yes to everything. Your gut works, your gut's there for a reason. Not every opportunity is a good one. This is a long game. It's a long game. Sorry for the speech. I feel myself, I was trailing off into platitudes and telling people what to do. I didn't mean it like that. I just want to encourage you. I love the life that I have. I feel blessed to be doing and have done the things that I do. And when I look back on how did these things happen, it happened by saying yes to the invitation. Have a great day.
Thank you, Rudy, for being here and sharing your wisdom with us. My name is Sierra Villegas, and I am the Program Evaluation and Data Coordinator for the Emerging Leaders Program. I am so honored and grateful to be in this virtual space with you all today. Before we jump into anything else, we would really like to take a step back and celebrate who was in the room today. The first part of the Eli journey is saying yes to the invitation by completing an application. And this year we had 389 eligible applicants representing 30 plus colleges. And you all have been invited to this mock interview event today. It is both really exciting and humbling for us in the Emerging Leaders Program to welcome you into this community and to witness 389 students of color coming together to move forward in your careers and to grow alongside one another and to build community in the Portland area. Additionally, more than 50% of you all identify as female, 2% identify as non-binary, and 100% all of you identify as students of color. In addition, we also like to highlight who is in the room in terms of year in college. So 86% of you are in your third year or above, and 10% of you are either in your first year or second year. We want to reiterate that you all are welcome since Eli is a program for college students as well as recent graduates. So we're really excited to have all of you here today. Another thing that we like to highlight is something that candidates look forward to as they're excited for opportunities with Eli. And 93% of you all are looking for mentors to help you navigate your field of interest and advance your career. And so this is one of the things that we commit to as a program. More than half of you in this room will be the first in your family to graduate from college, and you want to build your professional network. And so we're excited to help you work towards this milestone. Many of us on the team are also first generation college graduates. So we're really excited to be here with you in your journey and help you reach that milestone. Finally, 93% of you all want support as a person of color from Eli Internship that values bringing your unique voice to the workplace. And so we're really excited to walk alongside you as you bring your strengths, the many strengths that you already bring to the workplace and help you really lean into those strengths through the process. So we're excited to commit to this with you all this year. Another thing that I'm especially really excited about as a Chicana Japanese woman is that 42% of y'all identify as Asian, 33% of y'all identify as Latinx, and 28% of y'all identify as either Black or African. So we really like to highlight the cultural diversity that we have in this room today, as well as 50 plus countries of descent are present in the room. So you'll see this word cloud over here. There's a few different countries of descent represented today. As a team that predominantly identifies as people of color, we're really excited to help support you in this journey as you learn and grow. We're also privileged. We know that we're extremely privileged to have you join the Eli community, as each of you bring your own experience and wisdom to this space. So we just want to reiterate and name that. And last but not least, we want to recognize that there's a diversity of sectors that candidates represent. So 26% of y'all fall into the marketing and communications job grouping, 22% of y'all fall into the technology job grouping, and 20% of y'all fall into people and engagement. So we just want to let y'all know that you're interviewing with all these different groups. So some of the candidates that are in your room may not necessarily be from the same job grouping. And so, yeah, this is some of the things that we want to share with y'all. We're really excited to have you and excited to move along in this journey with you. I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Nick, and he's going to talk a little bit about the next steps in the Eli journey.
My name is Nick Poindexter. I'm Director of Community Partnerships and Mentoring with Emerging Leaders. Really excited to just share about next steps. Thank you for those that are viewing, whether you be, Eli candidate or a volunteer or community member. Just grateful for your presence and support of the work that we're doing. So first, today obviously is the mock interview event. We'll have 2 weekends of that today, and then next weekend. And this is an opportunity for evaluators to provide feedback to candidates. And so for candidates, soak up everything, really listen in, ask questions, and really just be it's okay to be nervous, and it's okay to whether you just went through the interviews or you're going through the interviews coming up next week, whatever that looks like for you. We're excited for you to participate and just soak up all of that information and really use that to put your best foot forward. And so the next step from there is internship matching. So our team, along with volunteers that support our work, will be diligently matching in the month of March. So we'll be unavailable when we focused in, really trying to identify, the candidates to connect with, the right companies based off of what companies are looking for. And so the great thing that candidates can be doing during this time, and all the folks that are preparing for a potential interview, is just that, right? Prepare for those interviews. Sharpen your resume and really make sure that you are going through your head and reviewing the feedback that you received, and maybe even doing some mock interviews with folks. And I'll have a next steps slide where I'll talk about some things that you can be doing in the meantime. But really, the month of March is our team actively identifying and matching potential candidates with potential companies. And then the next step is company interviews and offers. And so that's within the month of April and May. And so by mid-April to late April, you will receive an update on a potential match, and you'll be able to receive that notification. So just, we'll also highlight things to be thinking about. But like I said, in the interim, really just be preparing. And once you do, once you are potentially, if you are indicated to be matched with the position, do your research and really be all in with that. So companies will be reaching out to candidates, as mentioned, between, you'll likely get connected within the, if you're selected for a potential interview within the month of April, sort of mid to late April. And then lastly, if you are, indicated as, interviewing and you get selected and offers made to you, then you'll have the 2020 intern orientation. That'll be June 12th. And so that's a really exciting event. And I'll sort of share a little bit more about on this, next slide, but then you'll, attend the orientation, and then you'll also attend the summer events, professional development events. And I'll sort of dig a little bit deeper on the next slide to talk more about that. So for the summer events, the first one, as mentioned, is, and these are required events, so I just want to highlight that, the orientation, which is Saturday, June 6th, Saturday, June 12th. And really that's an opportunity for you to see who's a part of your community, right? The other Eli interns, see, be able to meet our team and maybe potential other folks that might be speakers, at that. And we'll let you know more information, about what that event will look like and more details if you are identified, if you are selected as a Eli intern for the summer. There'll be a workshop where we really talk about building your self-confidence in the workplace in June. In July, there'll be a workshop about advancing your professional portfolio. And so that's really a great way to continue to just develop you. Not only are we about access to connect you with internships, but we're also about really continuing to help you to grow professionally. You'll see a couple notes on here for Eli Tech events, and that's for our candidates or the folks that are identified as getting tech internships. They'll be a part of this cohort of Eli Tech folks, and so those will only be required for those individuals. But all of them are required. All of the others will be required for folks, and then specifically, like I mentioned, the ones for tech are specifically for those. In addition to, they'll be attending the other ones as well. After that, in August, we'll have another Eli Tech event, as well as the end of the summer networking event. And that's really an exciting event to come together as a community. There'll be other folks from the community, company partners, and it's really a nice way to just celebrate the summer and just the, what took place that summer and just really come together and get excited. But I guess the next sort of thing as we sort of think about this is like, what do you do in between, right? So what are those next steps or expectations? I mentioned some of them. I sort of wanted to go through them as some reminders, right? So key things are checking your email and portal account. So really, cleaning up your email, because I know sometimes things can get lost in your email. So just making sure that you're actively checking that and aware of what's coming in, and that you are checking your portal account. Also set up your voicemail box on your phone. You might, companies might reach out to you via phone. And so it's really important to not have your voicemail, too many, because if you have too many voicemails on there, your voicemail could be full and you'll miss that, opportunity, or just making sure your voicemail is set up, right? Because if it's not set up, you're not gonna be able to get that voicemail. So just making sure that you're, checking that, keeping it empty, and really being on top of that. Respond within 24 hours. Like really make it happen. You need to be hungry. You need to make sure that you're, don't make any excuses, really be on top of it, because that's really also going to show, if you are selected for an interview, that's going to show companies like that you're ready for business and ready to take care of things. So make sure that you're all in and responding as quickly as possible. No later than within 24 hours. Use your network, and what I mean by that is, try to ask your network to connect you with people from organizations you're interviewing, where you're interviewing, right? So do your research. So you might know somebody that knows somebody at a company, and so just learning as much as you can about that company, about that opportunity, about what the culture is, just soaking that up, because the more prepared you are in understanding what the opportunity is, what the company is, and just what you could be doing, and even knowing people there, those things are really going to help you to set yourself apart. So really make sure you're doing your research, you're connecting and learning more with people that are connected to those organizations. Work on your resume. You submitted a resume for your application, but this is an opportunity to fine tune that and sharpen that ahead of connecting with the company potentially. Create and update your LinkedIn profile. Folks will check LinkedIn profile, especially being at home a lot more often. That is a key way to communicate and connect with folks and just learn more about you. So make sure that you create that or keep it updated, and then review the resources we send you. We'll send you some resources, so make sure you're reviewing those and staying on top of that. If you're asking an evaluator to connect with you, make sure you're following up, right? So when you say you're going to do something, make sure you're doing it, because that holds a good impression for you. It really is going to also set you apart. So making sure that you're following up on any commitments or promises made. If you decide to withdraw, let us know right away. That's really important that we know who's available to be connected with for potential interviews. And also just have fun with the experience. Have fun. Hopefully those that are watching this that maybe already did the interview, hopefully you had fun and were able to dive in. And those that may be doing it next week, that you just have fun with the experience, and even have fun and learn as much as you can. Because really, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, it's an opportunity for you to learn, for you to grow, and for you to get connected with other folks. And lastly, on this next slide, it's really you being able to learn, see our social media handles, share about your experience, even though we're doing this virtually, right? And, if you already finished your interviews, make sure you share about, your experience, and make sure you're, there's hashtag Eli 2021. Just make sure that you're sharing about your experience, and with your networks, and really, follow us to see what's happening and what's, the updates in our community. And at the end of the day, I just want you to know, like, be encouraged. You are awesome, and we're excited for you. And no matter what happens, just be all in, soak up this opportunity. And we're so grateful for you to be a part of this community. And we're so grateful for your future. And thank you for all our volunteers and company partners and everyone that makes this happen. So thank you, and have a wonderful day.